Welcome back, everybody, to the deep dive. Today we're looking into something that's, well, it's gotten a lot of attention online, and that's the Iraqi dinar.
Yeah, it's certainly got people talking.
It really has. Some people seem to think that it's a guaranteed way to get rich,
Oh, yeah.
while others are saying, hey, hold on, this is super risky, maybe even a scam.
Hmm.
So we're going to try to sort all that out today.
Sounds good.
So we're using this recent Investopedia article as our guide
Okay.
to, kind of unpack all the details and really see what's going on.
Yeah.
Hopefully by the end you'll have a better understanding of what the Iraqi dinar is all about and whether or not it's something that you should even consider.
It's definitely a fascinating case study. I mean, you see all this buzz online about a currency poised for a massive rebound.
Right.
But the reality, as with most things, is much more complex.
Yeah.
So I think it's crucial to look beyond the hype and understand those underlying factors driving its value.
Yeah, absolutely.
The historical context, the political and economic landscape.
Yeah, I think taking a look back at the history is a good place to start.
Yeah.
The dinar's been on, a real roller coaster ride.
It has been.
Especially like after the Gulf War.
Right.
And during Saddam Hussein's regime.
It's incredible when you think about it. I mean, the dinar went from being worth around $3
Wow.
to less than a penny.
Oh, wow.
I mean, in just a few years. And that's due to a lot of different things happening at once.
Yeah.
UN sanctions, government corruption.
Right.
All of that stuff crippled the Iraqi economy.
Yeah, it's hard to even fathom that level of economic turmoil, the article actually mentioned that the inflation rate in 1994 was 448%.
Yeah, that's almost unimaginable.
I know. Like, how do people even function?
It's really hard to comprehend. I mean, imagine losing nearly half the value of your savings in a single year.
Oh, my gosh.
It's that kind of instability we're talking about. And it makes you think twice about putting your money into the dinar today.
Right.
Especially given, we had the 2003 U.S.-led invasion,
Right.
and they introduced a new dinar, but it didn't erase all those underlying economic issues.
So even with like a, quote-unquote fresh start,
Yeah,
there's still this legacy of instability.
there is. While there was this, glimmer of hope with the new government predictions that the economy was going to bounce back,
Right.
the reality, it's just much more complex.
Yeah. But didn't like the IMF, didn't they praise Iraq's efforts to like combat inflation?
They did.
And wasn't there like that period in 2007 where the dinar, it actually, started to appreciate in value?
That's right. The IMF did acknowledge those positive steps. And there was that period where we saw this gradual appreciation.
Right.
And it sparked a wave of optimism,
Right.
Some investors, they started believing that, this is it. The dinar was about to take off.
Right. The classic buy low, sell high.
Exactly. But
Yeah.
that's where I think we need to kind of dig a little deeper.
Okay.
We need to understand the mechanics, really,
Okay.
of the Iraqi dinar.
Okay, so let's do it. What are we talking about here?
Well, one crucial factor is that the Iraqi dinar is a fixed exchange rate currency.
Okay. So for like, the average person who's thinking about maybe investing in the dinar,
Mm-hmm.
what does that actually mean? What does a fixed exchange rate mean?
Well, it means that the central bank basically pegs the dinar's value to another currency,
Okay.
which in this case is the U.S. dollar.
Okay.
So it doesn't fluctuate freely based on market forces,
Oh, okay.
like supply and demand.
Mm,
So even if the Iraqi economy grows significantly, experiences a boom,
right.
the central bank might decide, you know what? We're going to keep the dinar's value relatively stable.
So even if like everything's going great in Iraq, the
Yeah.
dinar might not like skyrocket in value?
Exactly.
Okay.
And then there's another key element to consider.
Okay. What's that?
Trading volume.
Okay.
The dinar is not part of the global Forex market.
Right.
That's the foreign exchange market where all these currencies are traded.
Right.
So it's traded in, very limited quantities,
Okay.
making it less, less liquid.
Okay, so what does that mean for someone who's maybe already bought some dinars
Yeah.
and they're hoping to cash in, if the value does go up?
It might be tough to find buyers when they want to sell,
Oh, okay.
especially if you're trying to sell a large amount.
Right. Okay.
This limited trading volume,
Yeah.
it can make it hard to realize your profits, even if the dinar does appreciate.
Okay.
It's something to keep in mind.
Yeah, for sure. And then there's the whole issue of fees, right?
Right.
Like the article mentioned that you can only buy dinars from these specific money exchangers.
Mm.
And they often charge, I mean, these really hefty fees.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, sometimes as high as 20%.
That's a big chunk.
Yeah, that's huge.
And that can eat into your profits significantly,
Right.
even if the dinar's value does go up.
So even before we talk about scams and instability,
Right.
there are already some like built-in challenges for people who are thinking about investing in the dinar.
Definitely things to consider.
It sounds like there's a lot to be cautious about if
Yeah.
you're thinking about the dinar. But what about that argument that we hear so much,
No.
that Iraq has these massive oil reserves?
Right.
Couldn't that fuel economic growth and then, potentially lead to the dinar going up in value?
It's a common argument. And, it is true. I mean, Iraq does have, a huge chunk of the world's oil.
Right.
But it's just not that simple.
So what are some of the things that like complicate that equation?
The big ones, I mean, political instability and corruption.
Right.
Those are huge roadblocks. I mean, even if you've got all this oil wealth,
Yeah.
it's really tough for a country to thrive economically when you've got all this political upheaval,
Yeah.
lack of transparency.
So it's not just like drill, baby, drill, and the money just flows in.
It would be nice if it was that easy.
Right.
But unfortunately, there are all these deeper issues
Yeah.
that could really hinder, Iraq's economic progress.
Even though they have so many resources.
Yeah, and we've seen it happen,
Right.
I mean, remember back in late 2020,
Yeah.
they had that financial crisis,
Right.
and they were forced to devalue their currency.
Yeah, I remember that.
So that kind of shows you that oil wealth alone,
Right.
it's not some magic bullet for stability or prosperity.
Right. Right. I mean, it's a good reminder that these economic forecasts, they're not like guarantees.
Nope.
So, okay, let's say someone's, really intrigued by Iraq's potential,
Yeah.
but they're, understandably a little bit wary of the dinar, with all the volatility. Are
Mhm.
there other ways to like, invest in the region, but
Yeah.
maybe, not take on as much risk?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah.
And it kind of gets at the idea of diversification.
Okay.
So instead of just putting all your money into the dinar,
Right.
you could explore, some other options.
Yeah.
Things that offer, exposure to Iraq's growth,
Okay.
but without that same level of currency risk.
Okay, so what are we talking about here?
Well, one option is investing in Iraqi stocks.
Okay.
So that way you're participating in the growth of these Iraqi companies
Okay.
without directly, betting on the dinar.
Okay.
So even if the dinar's value stays pretty much the same,
Right.
you could still benefit from the success of businesses that are operating in Iraq.
That makes sense. It's like saying, I believe in the potential in Iraq,
Yeah.
but I don't want to, put all my eggs in the dinar basket.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that's kind of a key principle of sound investing, right?
Right.
Diversification,
Mhm.
spreading your risk,
Okay.
different asset classes,
Yeah.
creates a more balanced portfolio.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, before we move on, there's something else I wanted to ask about.
Yeah.
This really caught my eye in the article. It said that Iraq like recently banned cash withdrawals and transactions in US dollars.
Yeah.
Why would they do that? Like, what's the point of that?
And that's a big deal. And it reflects a few things going on. I mean, one is that they want to try to curb the misuse of hard currency reserves,
Okay.
like in financial crimes.
Okay.
Another is to prevent people from evading U.S. sanctions on Iran.
Okay.
So by, tightening control over the flow of U.S. dollars,
Right.
Iraq's trying to address, these domestic and geopolitical concerns.
So it's like they're trying to send a message like, we're serious about strengthening our own system and asserting our independence.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And, this decision, I mean, it could have long-term implications for the dinar.
In what way?
Well, by encouraging people to use the Iraqi dinars within the country,
Yeah.
they're essentially trying to boost demand for their own currency.
So this could like actually influence the exchange rate down the road.
It could. It's definitely something to watch.
Right.
It kind of underscores this point, right? I mean, investing in a foreign currency,
Yeah.
it's not just about looking at, charts and graphs and stuff.
Right.
You got to understand the political and economic landscape of the country
Right.
and how those things might influence the currency's value.
It's like a reminder of like knowledge is power.
Yeah.
Especially when you're making decisions about, where to put your money.
For sure. I mean, understanding all the nuances of the Iraqi economy,
Yeah.
I mean, that's essential for anyone who's even thinking about the dinar,
Right.
whether it's, a direct investment
Right.
or just, part of a broader strategy.
Okay, so let's kind of come back to that main question, right?
Yeah.
Like, is the Iraqi dinar a wise investment?
Yeah.
based on everything that we've talked about so far, what's the verdict?
It's tough to say for sure. I
Yeah.
mean, there's always a chance that the dinar could really take off, if Iraq can overcome all these challenges.
Yeah.
But it's risky. It's
Right.
high risk, high reward,
Okay.
and there's a lot of uncertainty.
So, what are some of the things that, people should really be thinking about
Hmm.
before they make a decision?
Well, they need to weigh the potential upside
Right.
against those risks that we talked about.
Right.
The limited trading volume, the fees, the political and economic instability,
Yeah.
the potential for scams.
Right.
I mean, even if the dinar goes up,
Yeah.
those things could really eat away at any profits that you might make.
So this is definitely not for people who are like risk averse.
Definitely not.
Yeah. I mean, you really need to have like high tolerance for risk
Yeah.
and a deep understanding of like what's going on.
For sure.
Okay. So it sounds like, maybe investing in Iraqi stocks
Mhm.
might be a smarter move for people who are, interested in that region's potential,
Yeah.
but maybe not so comfortable with
Yeah.
the risks of the dinar.
Yeah. I think that's a good option to consider.
Okay.
Diversification.
Right.
And, it's always a good idea to
Yeah.
talk to a financial advisor
Right.
before you make any decisions.
Yeah. I think that's always good advice, right?
Oh, yeah.
Especially if you're not really sure, like, what you're doing.
For sure. I mean, a financial advisor can help you navigate all the complexities of the market,
Yeah.
help you come up with a sound strategy that
Yeah.
aligns with your goals.
Right. They can help you, figure out how much risk you're comfortable with.
Exactly.
And create a diversified portfolio.
Yeah.
Okay. So as we, start wrapping up our deep dive into the Iraqi dinar,
Yeah.
I mean, it's clear that this is not like a simple buy it and forget about it
Nope.
kind of investment.
There's a lot to think about.
Yeah. There's a lot to consider both, on the risk side
Mhm.
and, the potential rewards.
It's a complicated story. I mean, you've got the economic upheaval, the
Yeah.
political uncertainty,
Right.
and then, this idea that the dinar might make a comeback.
Right.
But I think the important thing is to, like we've been talking about, separate fact from fiction
Right.
and approach any investment with a lot of caution.
Yeah. And hopefully, this deep dive has given you the knowledge that you need
Yeah.
to make smart decisions.
Exactly. I mean, remember, there's no one-size-fits-all approach to investing.
Right.
It's about finding what works best for you,
Right.
your circumstances, your risk tolerance, your goals.
Well, thanks so much for joining us for this fascinating look at the Iraqi dinar.
My pleasure.
Until next time, stay curious
Stay informed.
and happy investing.
Absolutely.
And remember, always dive deep. Yeah, it's like having somebody in your corner who
Mhm.
can, help you make sense of it all.
Exactly. And I think the dinar, I mean, it's a good example of how uh, there are no shortcuts, really,
Yeah.
when it comes to building wealth.
Right.
It takes, time and patience,
Right.
a good strategy. And, if you just try to chase those quick riches,
Yeah.
you're probably going to end up disappointed
Yeah.
or, even worse.
So it's really about sticking to the fundamentals.
Exactly.
Diversification, managing your risk,
Mm.
making decisions that are, going to help you reach your long-term goals.
Absolutely. And, sometimes the best thing you could do is just walk away.
Yeah.
If an investment just doesn't feel right,
Right.
no matter how tempting it seems.
Yeah. I think that's good advice. You got to trust your gut sometimes.
Yeah.
And, do your research, make sure you're getting your information from like credible sources,
Absolutely.
not just, random people online.
Right.
And don't be afraid to ask questions.
Oh, yeah, good point.
Even if they seem, kind of basic or whatever.
The more you understand,
Right.
the better off you'll be.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay, so to kind of wrap up our deep dive into the Iraqi dinars, I think it's safe to say that it's not, your typical like set it and forget it investment.
Yep.
There's a lot to think about,
A lot to consider.
a
Yeah.
lot of potential risks, but also, potential rewards.
Mm-hmm. It's a fascinating story, though.
It is.
I mean, you've got all this economic upheaval,
Right.
political uncertainty,
right.
and then this, this hope
Yeah.
that maybe, just maybe, the dinar is going to make a comeback.
Right.
But as we've been saying, it's all about separating fact from fiction
Yeah.
and being careful.
So hopefully this has been helpful.
Yeah, I hope so.
Giving you some things to think about if
Hmm.
you're, considering the dinar.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks again for joining us.
It's been a pleasure.
It's been great having you.
Thanks for having me.
Until next time, happy investing, everybody.
Happy investing.
And remember, always dive deep.